the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 120 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today, we'll be discussing chapter 46 of A Clash of Kings. That's Bran 6.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter. We're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information, particularly handy if you're not reading along. How are you, Mackelly? I've suddenly become self-conscious about the things I say every week now.
Well, you're going to end up on a mug. How are you, Mackelly? Oh, that's funny. I'm doing all right. It's a Monday after a long weekend, so it is what it is.
Yes, we had a nice long weekend here in the United States. That was good. That's a reason to give thanks all by itself.
That's right. How about you? How you doing?
Good. My son and heir turned 18 yesterday.
That he did. Happy birthday to him.
We went out for dinner with him, and November 28th, you shouldn't be able to sit outside, but we did. We sat outside for his birthday in the evening at like 7 o'clock.
It wasn't bad yesterday. It was nice.
I was chilly by the end, but
right.
It was still. We got a call from our friends in New York, and we told them we were sitting outside. They were like, "What?
It's snowing!"
Yes, they were having different weather.
So Stacey had a funny thing happen to her, or I guess it was early last week. She got a letter from upper management. Someone from upper management sent an email, and it was very, very glowing, very, very nice letter about Stacey and the work that she's done and everything like that. And so she was so moved by it. She responded with a very heartfelt thank you letter response, and then she heard from a colleague who got a very similar email, and it said, "Dear, enter name in space." And then the first paragraph said, "We're so thankful for enter attribute from spreadsheet." And then in the second paragraph, it said, "We're something like, we love the way that you handled enter achievement from spreadsheet."
Oh, poor Stacey.
She was like, "I feel like such an idiot. I responded so heartfelt."
That is very funny. Poor Stacey. That's right. I thought that was going to end with her replying, "Oh, thanks," and then replying, "Oh, you weren't supposed to be the one to get that. It was meant for someone else."
Stacey Ray. Oh, whoops.
I told you that's what happened with one of my team. One of my team got a glowing email from like this big boss, like one tier down from the biggest boss of all.
Okay.
And she told me about it, and I was like, "Well, that's got to be a mistake, right?" Turned out it wasn't. I was like, "Oops,
that can't be legit, can it?"
I'm a terrible manager.
Well, my manager a few years back said, "I don't know what to make of some feedback I just got about you." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "So someone came down to my office and they were saying just gushing about you, just so much gushing about, how you should be cloned as like the template for everyone that does the job that we do." And he was like, "Wow." And even I'm starting to blush as he's saying these things. And then he goes, she said the wrong job, the different product than what I work on. So he had no idea if she got the name wrong or the product wrong. But I didn't work on the product that she mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, clearly it was just the product.
I think clearly what your manager should have done was give you the feedback and also the owner of the product
right.
who was getting. Let's just assume everyone's doing a great job. So my news is So I have a weekly family call, and my sister and her husband, despite being vaccinated, both caught COVID.
Oh,
and
no.
they're doing okay. They're isolating because of it, but
Right.
they are not terribly unwell. They said it was like a heavy cold, but both of them have lost their sense of smell. That's the one thing that they said, like, really lost their sense of smell. Not like you've got a cold, you don't smell very well. It was more like I can smell nothing at all.
Right.
And then this week we heard from them. Just my sister. No sign of her husband, who's normally on the call. And she said, so 2 days ago, Mark, her husband, started to feel unwell. And it got worse and worse over the course of the day. And eventually she called an ambulance because she got really worried about him.
Oh, goodness.
And she said when the ambulance arrived, they walked in and they immediately diagnosed what was wrong with him. There was a gas leak. The place stank of gas, and neither of them knew it.
Because of this, they couldn't smell it. Oh, my goodness.
Apparently, the guy was like, oh my God, it's going to blow in here. He was like running for the door when he smelled it.
He turned around and ran. Run for your lives!
These two were like, do-do-do-do-do.
Oh, that is
they
something.
ended up taking, he spent a night in hospital from it. He got, he breathed this stuff in for long enough that he got quite sick.
Wow. Who knew? That's a whole... It's funny. I think the only light you're using right now is your monitor light, and you keep going from I can see you fine to completely blank.
Yes. When my screensaver comes on, I disappear.
Well, that's scary. I'm glad that she called the ambulance and didn't just yeah, you'll be fine.
Light a match.
Right.
Flick a light switch.
The good news is they couldn't smell anything, so lighting a candle would not have been something they would have been interested in doing necessarily, at least a scented one.
You raise a good point. All right. Shall we get down to business?
We talked about on the Discord server today how if you'd be self-conscious about saying that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I totally am. All right, let's get down to business. How did we leave Bran Stark? Last we saw of Bran, he was sharing dreams with Jojen Reed. The Crannog man, or Crannog boy, I guess, has proven himself pretty prophetic. His latest prognostication involves the sea coming to Winterfell and drowning Mikken, Septon Chael, and Alebelly, and the prisoner Reek peeling the skin off Bran and Rickon's lifeless bodies. Bran is understandably concerned, and Reek, if you remember, is the sidekick of Ramsay Snow, Roose Bolton's bastard son, who Sir Roderick took care of in an earlier chapter.
Right.
Okay, Mackelly, why don't we give him the summary of this one?
All right. Summer prowls the godswood, troubled by sounds he's hearing from outside. He and Shaggy have tried every exit during their confinement, so he knows that there is no way out. But he and Shaggy howl to raise the alarm. The voice he does not hear, the scent without a smell as he refers it, inside his head, convinces him to try to climb the sentinel tree from which he could jump the walls. Summer gives a try, but loses his footing and falls from a pretty decent height, it seems.
Bran awakes in his room on impact. His shoulder hurts, but he knows that Summer took a much worse hit. Bran knows that the sea has come to Winterfell. Summer smelled strangers, and Bran knows that the castle is not sufficiently defended. Sir Roderick Cassel has ridden off with most of the fighting men to deal with Dagmar Cleftjaw, who's besieging Torrens Square. Castle's force will be bolstered by 300 men from House Serwyn, so victory should be assured, but they've been gone 8 days and Bran is beginning to worry.
Bran makes 2 realizations. 1, Jojen was right about Bran being a warg, as well as the sea coming to Winterfell. He tries to raise the alarm, shouting for Hodor or anyone, but when his door opens, it's Theon Greyjoy who enters. Bran is relieved. He asks if Robb is home. Theon says Robb is far away and can't help you. The words, can't help you, confuse and worry Bran. Theon explains. He sent 4 men to swim the moat and climb the walls with ropes and hook. They opened a postern gate for Theon and the rest of his men. Theon's men are in the process of subduing the Stark men, so Theon claims the castle as his and wants Bran to tell the people to follow him as they followed Bran.
At first Bran says they'll fight him and his men, but Theon suggests he reconsider, for the sake of those in the castle. Theon leaves and Luwin arrives. Luwin has a flowing wound on his forehead. He tells Bran he managed to get a raven off to White Harbour before the Ironborn stopped him. He also says that Alebelly is dead. Luwin helps Bran dress in lordly fashion before Ironborn comes to carry Bran to the Great Hall. They stop to pick up Rickon, Jojen and Mira Reed, the Walders fray, and all along the way.
In the Great Hall, Theon sits in the high seat of the Stark Lord. The Ironborn are collecting everyone from the castle and herding them in here, the last of which being the captive Reek. From Bran's vantage point, he can see there's only maybe 20 Ironborn in the hall, possibly 30 in total, he figures. Theon explains his father Balin is now king of the Iron Islands and claims the north by right of conquest. Most say nothing, but Mikken can't help but lash out at Theon for his treacherous deed and small force. His punishments increase each time until at last Mikken dies with a spear through his neck.
Theon explains that this isn't the whole of his force, as Deepwood Motte and Torrhen Square will fall along with Moat Cailin. He says if Robb defeats the Lannisters, he's welcome to reign as King of the Trident, but House Greyjoy now holds the north. Reek points out that the Stark bannermen will fight Theon, but pledges his support to his new lord. Bran is sadly surprised when Osha is next to pledge her fealty, claiming she's tired of scouring kettles and warming the straw for Gage the cook. She wants a spear in her hands and will pledge her support to make it happen.
Well, that's not what we wanted.
No.
But we knew, when Theon was hatching this plan with Dagmar, I mean, it wasn't exactly well masked that this is what he had in mind when he said Torrhen Square is not the castle that I want.
Right. And actually, I mean, logically it made sense. I mean, this was the one jewel in the crown of the North that they kept on taking troops from.
Right.
And so it wasn't too hard to figure out how to take it.
Yes. Yeah, I have some thoughts on that when we get to all that, but I guess we should begin at the beginning, as they say.
Yeah. So it starts again with one of these warg dreams that Bran has, and it's, to me, the bond between Bran and Summer appears to be deepening. I mean, basically, to this point, it's been more a sense of Bran can see through Summer's eyes and sort of sense some of it. But now there's sort of like a bi-directional communication going on to a certain extent. Bran is able to give Summer direction.
Right.
He convinced Summer against Summer's wishes to climb the tree, and it turns out Summer was right. Wolves are not as good at climbing as little boys are. And it's interesting how Summer perceives it. He perceives it as a disembodied voice in his head. He's not quite sure, Summer, who it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it's Bran. He just knows that it's the voice without sound, that he can hear. And I think he recognizes that nobody else can hear.
Yeah.
But it's also the other way around too, that Bran senses the things that Summer senses and actually sort of smells the smells. And so when Bran woke, he already knew there was trouble. Right. Because he remembered and felt the things that Summer was fretting about.
Yeah. Too bad we didn't get Summer's POV, because in my mind, he's like, oh, nice. You run me up this tree like a damn dire squirrel, and when shockingly things go wrong, and I end up falling out of it, you disappear and leave me with these broken ribs. Or whatever happens.
Or maybe Summer's POV is like, just he spent the rest of the chapter just going, see what you did? See what you did? And nobody responds. It's like, come on.
Yeah. So he wakes, and one of his first thoughts is basically acceptance of all the green dream prophecies that Jojen has told him. And I was wondering if maybe it's the pain in the shoulder. He wakes up and he feels pain in his shoulder, almost as if he was the one that had fallen, and he thinks it's only a ghost of the pain that Summer must be feeling. But I wonder if maybe the physical reality of feeling pain in his shoulder might have been enough for him to realize, because he's been having these green dreams for a long time. And this time he wakes up and thinks, he's right, I really am a warg.
Yeah, because previously he's woken up and he's felt like he could still smell the smells and things like that. But this, that's different. That could be your brain just continuing the dream for you. But this is, honestly though, when you get to my age, Bran, my shoulders hurt half the mornings. So.
It's a daily occurrence.
I'll wake up tomorrow. I'll be like, oh, poor Summer.
Poor Twiggy.
No. The reason my shoulder ache is because I'm curled around that stupid animal.
That's what it is. But so what the next thought he has is he realizes that Jojen's sea dream is coming true, which you mentioned in the summary is the sea coming to Winterfell dream. And it's not really clear how he knew that at this point, because it's not like there was no description of Summer being like, oh, I smell the sea on the, I smell salt on these men.
Yes, it never got mentioned that, but I did wonder that same thing, if that's what Summer had smelled, and that's what Bran on waking thinks, the sea has come to Winterfell, I smell it,
Right, yeah. Now, Summer does smell an unknown man smell and considered it basically stranger danger, but so maybe Bran was making the leap that this must be the sea, or, putting two and two together here.
Yeah, but it is interesting because he's kind of, I shouldn't watch the TV show as close as I do to the recording, because it always influences my memory of the book. Yeah. It just gets in between. I read, watch the TV show, record, and I'm like, was that in the book? He was surprised to see Theon.
Yes, that is true. That was in the book as well. Yes.
Right, yes, okay, good. He was surprised to see Theon, which you might think, it's almost pedantry, actually, why he says that straight away, the sea dream has come true. Because in the TV show, it's pushed later in the scene by quite a distance.
Oh, he doesn't realize it.
He does not realize it.
Okay.
But the scene is mostly captured, but very much the sea dream is mentioned very late on in the whole scene. Anyway, I did wonder if Summer really might be her, because it would be another example of the sort of Stark children Direwolf Symmetry if Bran's wolf ended up crippled, if it was limping for the rest of its life.
Yeah. Now, on Bran's way to the Great Hall, he does hear both direwolves howling. So at least it sounds like Summer's alive. He didn't fall to his death. But yeah, that's true. We'll have to see.
Yeah, because you think about this, all the symmetries. I mean, Nymeria is lost somewhere in Westeros. Ditto, her owner.
Oh, right.
Arya. Lady is cut off from the rest of Lady.
Right.
As is Sansa to a certain extent. Rickon and Shaggy Dog are one and the same.
They are basically, yes. They are one and the same.
He might as well ride the thing. And then Jon is different. Jon is the outsider, so
right.
There does seem to be some symmetry. So I just wonder if the same thing might happen with Summer.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
I guess so.
So Roderick has taken 600 men with him. That makes you perhaps realise the scope of Winterfell. That's one thing I don't think the TV show really captured. Because, Winterfell was it always kind of looked kind of small and sort of like, not tiny, but it was just an ordinary castle. But if the force that Robb took south could afford to leave 600 fighting men behind,
right?
That's a big, big castle.
Yes, I think it is a lot bigger than people realize or give it credit for. Yeah.
And the TV show, I think, influences people in that. Because the TV show, like the central square of Winterfell in the TV show, is very small.
Yes. Oh, right. I actually, in background, we'll talk a bit about the castle itself. And yeah, I think people probably don't realize how large it is. In fact, the winter town outside of the castle can hold around 15,000 people.
Okay.
And that's the little town outside of the castle. So, yeah, I think it's a lot bigger than people realize.
Yeah. But once there's 600 leave, we really are down to the dregs this time. It's not like there's 300 more that were just sitting around. Now we're down to the Alebellys and the Hayheads.
the Poxy Tims.
The Poxy Tims.
Now, that feels like a lot. Taking 600 men feels a bit irresponsible to leave a castle as big as we were just talking about without at least the minimum men necessary to hold it from something, which as we learned was from 30 people.
Right, it was only 30 people, so you only needed 100 men, and you could have held it easily.
Yes. He's getting 300 from House Serwyn. Leave 100 people to hold the gem of your kingdom here. This is not just some random castle. This is the capital of the North.
I wonder if the thinking is, and let's cut Sir Roderick a break here. I wonder if the thinking is, conceivably, there might be a group large enough, small enough to sneak past us, but large enough to take Winterfell, because we're leaving Winterfell pretty much undefended. But there's no way that group is large enough to then defend Winterfell. So when we come back, we're just going to retake Winterfell, and they're going to look really stupid for having done it.
Possibly, except for that then the issue is that they have the captives of the two princes, you know?
That's true, but you don't negotiate with them. If you arrive home and the doors to Winterfell are closed to you, you immediately scale those walls at 100 different points.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And if they say, we're going to kill Bran and Rickon, you're like, oh, it's too late, sorry, we're over the walls. You better not do that. Your fate will be worse than a fate worse than death.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. It just seems like it would have been easier to just keep at least enough there to man the necessary parts of the castle to keep it safe.
But there is that thing of, we look around and there's nobody coming. If there was a group large enough to take Winterfell coming, we would know about it. The people of the North would have reported back, hey, there's a force of 10,000 men coming up the road,
Right.
A group of 20 or 30, you discount them as not being able to do it. But they haven't really done it. The only person they killed was Alebelly. No, they didn't kill Alebelly. It was Hayhead. No, who got killed?
Alebelly, you're right.
Yeah. Alebelly got killed. So the only person they killed was Alebelly. They haven't really taken it. I mean, it's just kind of like, it's this question that Varys asks about power. Where does power truly lie? They're not in charge of Winterfell. The people of Winterfell could all just open every door and let everybody back in, and they would be powerless to stop it. And so maybe because this force is so small, you discount it as a possibility of doing anything. And, well, this is the outcome. You underestimated Theon.
I guess so. Yeah, that's possible. I see where you're coming from. Now, Bran mentions that they even took the guard off of his room. That's how short they were in people to guard things. And I was thinking maybe they should have at least let Summer stay with Bran.
Right. He's quiet when he stays with Bran, right?
Right. And Luwin knows that it's Shaggy that is the biter and the wild problem. But maybe since they're so short-staffed, just let both wolves out and let them help man the guard the castle.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, at the end of last chapter, Theon was trying to convince Dagmar to go along with this plan. He knew Dagmar had some reservations, and he was talking about how he can't do it without the feared and known Dagmar Cleftjaw. He needs that name recognition to be storming or sieging Torrhen Square in order for this to work. And I wondered if I think we had talked about it, that chapter, if he was just pumping up Dagmar's ego, or if he really was, a notorious Ironborn personality. And it turns out old Nan had a tale about him, and she probably isn't getting out that much these days. So, maybe there are stories out there floating around about him.
She's a great gatherer of tales, though. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he has a reputation that goes beyond the Iron Islands, but I think only people like Old Nan would have heard that reputation, just because she is the great chronicler of the North.
The story she tells about him is that he can't be killed because his head was split into two, and he pushed the two halves together and held it until it healed.
I wonder if the guy who played Dagmar in the show read all that and was like, wait a minute.
Wait a second. This is CGI, right?
But they skipped it. I mean, Dagmar was a character in the TV show, but he just looked normal. He did not look like he...
He was just Dagmar.
Yeah. Yes. They never mentioned his last name because then they would have had to CGI him. So Bran's initial reaction when he sees Theon is relief, which makes sense. I mean, he would assume that Rob's, either with him or he's here at Rob's request.
Oh my! Yes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the relief he would be feeling at initially seeing Theon, thinking, "Oh, thank goodness, is Rob back too?" Like, oh, everyone's home. Maybe Mother's back. Is everybody come back? This is what I've been waiting
the
for.
The salty smell. That makes sense.
But no. Yeah.
But so Bran is immediately in a very complex position because, I mean, he's only a child and he's been, he doesn't, as acting Lord of Winterfell, he's not expecting to bend the knee to anybody else, but that's what he's being told to do. The threat to the people of Winterfell is pretty awful. And as the chapter goes by, we see that the threat is real.
Right.
What befalls Mikken could befall everyone if they don't, metaphorically bend the knee to Theon.
Yeah.
And so he is in an awkward situation. Maester Luwin gives him good advice. He said, it's honourable to see the fight and live to fight another day, and so at least he gets him to do the right thing. Just as a passing thing that I didn't remember to put in the notes for the TV show, it's Theon who has that conversation with Bran in the TV show. I think Theon kind of bullies him towards that in the book too.
Right.
But Maester Luwin doesn't have that conversation with Bran in the TV show. It's just Theon.
He does it in a more kinder tone than he does in the
slightly kinder tone.
Book.
Yes. And certainly doesn't say sort of to fight another day. Obviously,
he leaves that part out. Hey, maybe you could take me next week. Yeah, I mean, for a young boy, he's surely not equipped to deal with people like your average Ironborn, which is kind of something that Maester Luwin cautions him about. Is cruel places breed cruel people, and your father did his best to try and mellow Theon out, but it was too little, too late. And even Theon, who Bran is used to seeing as being a fun-loving, if ornery boy, is now more cruel and cold than Bran probably would be expecting to experience with Theon. So, and of course, I don't know if it's fully dawned on Bran just the level of trust that that Theon has violated in his good friend and king in the worst possible way that he could have violated his trust.
Yeah. So Theon explains what happened. I mean, we've already said this, that 4 men swam the moat and scaled the walls, opened the postern gate for the rest of them.
That was his plan. That was his master plan.
The beauty of trying to take an undefended castle is you just have to get inside and open the door. I
guess it's just such a low percentage plan. It's
a low percentage plan if the wolves are wandering the walls and there's 200 men guarding the place.
What if Roderick had left 50 to 100, 150 men? It only brought 750 men to this.
But I don't know. You see, I feel like,
What if one of them was spotted? Like that's all it would take was, what the heck is that guy doing down there? Hey, everybody, look at this guy down there, and sound the alarm, and then it's thwarted.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's basically like only 30 men is all he had. So, and I wondered about that. Why so few? Was it intentional? Was it so as to not be noticed by the wall guards? Or did many of his men decide not to follow this off-script plan and stayed with his uncle Aaron, who was going to do what Balon told them to do?
But also, there's Dagmar's force as well. So he had to split his force between here and Torrance Square. As I said, I think there was a magic number here, because 50 men marching through the north would get noticed and perhaps reported back, and then Sir Roderick really might not have sent if you hear there's 100 men besieging Torrhen Square, and while I'm talking to you, I might mention there's 50 men heading towards Winterfell. He might not take everybody out of Winterfell at that point.
That's possible. That's possible. I imagine the size of the North, they could probably get through it undetected through the Wolf's Wood.
They can at a certain size, but 50 men is a lot.
That's true. Yeah, you'd see
that's
smoke,
a lot of people.
Smoke. Cook fires and stuff.
And they don't have that many horses. I mean, they came on boats. They pillaged and took horses, but they're not completely mobile. So it would take them a while, and a raven could easily outpace them.
Maybe that's why they only brought 30 men. They only had 30 horses.
Possibly, yeah.
But so Luwin says to Bran, he says, Roderick took too many men. It's not just his fault. It's both of our faults. I didn't see this coming. And I was like, dude literally got taken by the oldest trick in the book. We're going to come over here and do this. Oh, nope. We snuck around the other way and got ya. I mean, but I was thinking, like, if Torrhen Square is under siege, might you not want to just, like, think for a minute that other castles might also be targets? Especially leaving Winterfell with nearly no garrison and an 8-year-old as lord.
Yeah, and even more, I mean, when you say the Ironborn are besieging Torrhen Square, that should immediately alert you. The first thing Dagmar said when he heard the plan was, we don't besiege places.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Why would they randomly siege Torrhen Square? What is the benefit? If you stopped and thought about why are they randomly besieging Torrhen Square? Maybe it's a trick. Maybe they're trying to create a diversion to do something here at the heart of our kingdom. I don't know.
All right. They've let us down. But, I do feel a little bit for them because, I mean, especially Sir Roderick, he's kind of a fighting man and he's been put in charge of the North where there's no fighting going on. He gets a whiff of a fight. He's like, come on, everybody.
Right. Well, kind of. That's kind of what Theon was banking on, is him, honorably going out to defend Torrhen Square. But I wondered if, I kind of was thinking about this, could this be the Ned death equivalent in a Clash of Kings compared to a Game of Thrones? Like the moment when everything changes and can't go back as it was. When the Lannisters killed Ned, it altered the trajectory of the story. Does Theon taking Winterfell do that same thing again? It certainly will change the calculus for Robb.
Well, I would think when the 900 men come back from Torrhen Square, the calculus will be reset to where it was because they'll take Winterfell in 5 minutes. But I think Theon is banking on getting boosted in numbers, not only by whichever besiegers evade Sir Roderick and get to Winterfell before him, but also he sent word to his sister Asha to send men as well, I think. Or again, that could be TV show corrupting my thoughts here.
Yeah, that has not been mentioned, but you would think he will need... He mentions to the collective audience at the Great Hall that this is not the extent of my force. I have my sister's taking Deepwood Mott and my uncle is taking Mackelly.
Yeah.
So,
and as we said, a couple of 100 men could hold Winterfell for quite a long time. But the one thing I will say is there's an awful lot of spies for the other side within the walls of Winterfell.
Yeah, true.
You don't need to swim the moat and climb the walls to get that postern gate open. Just shout and ask someone.
Right.
Everyone will do it.
That's part of the issue, is that castle is so big. There's no way for 30 men to watch every square. Right. Clearly, we saw that there's no way for 30 men to watch the whole castle. We just watched it all go.
Yeah, and 200 could do it if everybody's batting for the same side. But these 200 don't have any friends within the walls.
True, yes.
If they get boosted to 200, that is.
Yeah. But
so, yeah, it could be. I mean, it's definitely a momentous moment, but it could get inverted. Whereas Ned's death was definitely pretty final.
It was. You're right. There was no going back on
No
that.
amount of bandage was going to put that thing back on.
Solid point. Yeah, I take your meaning. But a raven, Maester Luwin did say that he sent off 2 ravens, and one they shot down, but the one to White Harbor got away. So, White Harbor. I'm
curious about that. Did he let them go at the same time? Could he be sure which one
was which? That's a good point.
Maybe it set off just slightly more to the left. You're like, okay, that one's going to White Harbor. They could cross further down.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe some relief might be on the way if Sir Wyman or Lord Wyman Manderley gets that distress call.
Yes, Theon. The only way Theon survives this, of course, is to boost his numbers. He's got to make Winterfell defensible, and it really isn't right now. So he's got to boost those numbers as quickly as possible. So I would imagine he's going to reach out to all of the people who've been. So his sister has been harrying further north than him, and his uncle is heading towards
Moat Cailin.
Yeah. So if they all came to Winterfell, that would be a very large force, but I'm not sure how they could beat Sir Roderick.
Yeah, right. And now, see, that gets back to my whole thing of like, how are the Ironborn supposed to hold the North in general with the amount of people that they have? So,
yeah. So as Bran is brought to the main hall, they collect an entourage of Rickon and the Reeds and the Walders Frey, who are relentlessly unpleasant to Bran, saying he's no longer a prince, just a hostage like them.
Yep. Such a little Walder thing to say.
Yes.
It's just like you could almost feel that him relishing seeing Bran fall from his princely perch that he's been on. It's so in character, just like how he didn't mind much when his uncle Stevron died because it raised him up the house ranks a notch.
They like the flavor of the nasty meat.
They do.
So everyone is brought before Theon to hear Bran's concession, including the baker, who probably was in the middle of something when all this happened.
Yeah, and I'd be nervous if I were Septon Chael, because
why?
He was the third member of the Green Dream. It was Alebelly, dead. Mikken, dead. Septon Chael, I would be like,
Now, hang on, though. When Bran was asking him did he explain that this was a dream about the sea coming to Winterfell? Oh, yeah.
And he said, I don't think it'll be drowning. I'm a pretty good swimmer. I was,
right.
I think he was raised on the banks of the White Knife or something like that. But, and then Farlin and Palla show up, and Palla's dress is ripped.
Farlin is the kennel master?
Yeah. Farlin's the kennel master, and Palla's his daughter. And she's walking like every step hurts, and her dress has been ripped, and she's kind of holding it together in a bunch. So it certainly seems like she might have been sexually assaulted, which of course we know is a tactic of the Ironborn.
Uh-huh.
So, but Theon knows these people. He seems, and he keeps trying to explain to them that he's going to rule them benevolently and peacefully. But my question is, how do you juxtapose the Ironborn environment and mentality and his desire to rule in a kind of Ned Stark type manner? I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Especially, this is when he's only got 30 men to boss around. If the numbers do get swollen, how is he going to keep any of them under control,
Right, yeah.
So, I will say bravo to Mikken for standing up to Theon and speaking truth to power, but good grief, man, shut up before you get killed.
Yeah.
Clearly you're going to get killed if you keep mouthing off. And, the first thing that happens to him is he gets hit in the back of the neck with the butt of a spear. I would never speak again. I would be hurt so badly by it. I mean, imagine how bad that would hurt.
I can't. He spits out a tooth.
He spits out a tooth. I mean, just that. If you knocked a tooth out from me, I'd be like, oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm your Reek now.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, sure, he's livid to discover that it was their own Theon, who they've known for the past decade, who did this treacherous act. But surely Mikken is more useful to the future of the Stark cause alive versus dead.
And Bran gives him a direct order to shut up, and he just keeps going.
I was thinking maybe he realized Jojen's prophecy had come true and figured he'd lean into this "I'm gonna die anyway" thing and go out in a blaze.
Yeah. So Hodor's reaction to Mikken's murder is, of course, entirely understandable.
Yeah.
And then he gets beaten at the hands of 2 Iron Men, and that to me is the most troubling part of this whole chapter. I mean, just like the thought of Hodor being beaten.
Me too. Yes.
Well, just being so upset for seeing his friend die. It's like that's just a horrible thought.
I agree. I was a little bit surprised that Theon didn't stop it. The 2 things that I struggled with the most this chapter was Farland being alive. I don't think I would have survived watching my daughter being raped. I don't think I would have lived through it. I think I would have ended up getting myself killed in an attempt to stop it. That really bothered me. And Hodor's, not that I'm blaming Farland. I'm sure he tried whatever he could. It was probably restrained. Just that dynamic there. And also Hodor, Hodor taking a beating like this because Theon knows him. It's not like he was a stranger. Theon knows he's Hodor. He's harmless.
And the real the horror of it is sort of like enhanced by the fact that as the beating is going on, there's this horrific counterpoint of Theon saying the words, "I will be as good a lord to you as Eddard Stark ever was." It's hard to imagine a less Ned Stark-like action than having your men beat a helpless man.
That's what exactly. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. How do you juxtapose these 2 things?
So we meet Reek, who says his real name is Heek. Hence the name, I guess. Well, I mean, obviously we know the real reason for the name. He stinks. But, there's also a rhyme with his real name, which is Heek. He explains that he was a servant to Ramsay Bolton before the Starks killed him. Ramsay. I keep calling him Ramsay Bolton. You're right. He's Ramsay Snow. I'm just going to call Jon Snow Jon Stark from now on. I've just decided that I'm going to legitimize them all.
Right. Be like Aegon the Fourth.
But Reek is a thinker. He points out to Theon the problems. I mean, he bends the knee, but he points out the problems to him, that the Northern Lords are going to resist him, and that if he, Reek, were given a bath and a sword, he could be a useful addition to Theon's group.
He might be more useful without the bath, Who's going to want to step in and fight him?
He's a bioweapon right there.
Right. And he's right. He's absolutely right. And it goes back to my argument of how are the Ironborn going to... The Ironborn, which is not a very populous group of islanders, could possibly try to hold a land as vast as the North, filled with people who are as proud, independent, and loyal as Northerners. That's an uphill battle, that's for sure.
In the same way they're not besiegers, they're also not really castle dwellers. It's not like... this is unnatural fighting for them. For them, natural fighting is land on a beach, attack a helpless village, kill everyone and steal their stuff. That's what they're used to.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's just, they could take a few castles like Theon talks about here, but also like Theon says, he took this castle, but the people are still Bran's. That's what the castle's mine, but the people are still yours. You need to protect them and tell them that you've yielded. That's going to be like a system-wide situation here, because these are Northerners. These are first blood of the first men, Stark loyalists here. This is not an easy task. And we've seen in the past what happened when the Targaryens tried to take Dorne forcibly. It did not work because the people are fiercely loyal.
Right. And it's like the counterpoint to this would be the Iron Throne. the Iron Throne, if the Baratheons lose the Iron Throne to a Lannister or, whoever, the people of the Crown Lands and the Seven Kingdoms generally aren't going to care. They don't have really a dog in that fight. But the North is different.
Right.
They will not ever. They may have taxes taken from them by the Ironborn, but they'll never be loyal to them. They'll fight them forevermore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But then, so Theon says, if Robb Stark can stave off the Lannisters, he can reign as King of the Trident, but House Greyjoy owns the North. And this line, if he means it and believes it, is so out of touch with reality, it is head-shaking.
Yeah, but the North is hard to invade. This has always been the case.
Yeah, so, yeah. I guess what I mean is, if he really believes that Robb, first of all, his only real friend and the only person who's believed in him in like the past decade, will take down the Lannisters, look north, see Theon occupying the throne that's been the Starks for eons, and say, he's got at least 20 people holding that castle. I better steer clear of it. He's going to be... He takes care of the Lannisters. Say he does take care of the Lannisters first. He's not then just going to be content with being the king of the Trident. That's my ultimate point there.
What I would say, though, is perhaps Theon's looking for sort of like ransom. We'll give you back the North for, these 4 horses we could have just taken. or for like 10% of your taxes for the next 5 years. Something, we don't want to fight you. It's going to be tricky. We'll all lose people. We'll get out of here, but we want something for it. Maybe you could get that.
Maybe. The price he's paid in treachery and crossing his friend is... That's a heavy one to bear there, that price.
Yeah. Now, Osha's treachery is...
Speaking of treachery...
So Reek turns coat as quick as he can because Reek was being held prisoner, but Osha turns coat and she was being held prisoner too, but, in a more benign way. So it hurts Bran a little bit more that Osha bends the knee to Theon so readily.
Right, yeah.
She has been well treated, but maybe she's playing Theon false. I never quite know what Osha's thinking. She doesn't always... She's willing to lie, that Osha. She is a captive. Presumably she's willing to bend the knee to whoever in order to, whoever's in power, because if you don't, you're going to, as a prisoner, you have no power. So you bend the knee to power.
Right. Yeah, in hopes of improving your station, your situation. Yeah. Sure. I'm sure it's a tough realization for Bran that she wasn't just a friend and happy to be where she was. Maybe she was making the best of the situation and being friendly with Bran as he was in a position of power. Or maybe she truly thought he was a nice kid, but she saw an opportunity to improve her station here.
You can absolutely have both of those thoughts. Hey, Bran's a nice kid, I'll be nice to him. Doesn't mean she won't be nice to Bran going forward. But True, you can't blame her for bending the knee.
Now, of course, Bran's not seeing her daily life and, the in and outs of her daily life.
He sees those nice times when she gets to chat with her charming lord.
Right.
The other 23 and a half hours of the day, she's scrubbing the floor.
Right, exactly. I'm sure she's doing a lot of really hard work, and she's seemingly being coerced into sexual acts by Gage the cook. And, she was biding her time until an opportunity arose to change things, and she saw it and took it. So... as an adult, you could understand that probably a little better than a child could.
Yeah. You got some background for us?
I do. So, let's talk about Winterfell. Like I alluded to earlier, Winterfell isn't a city like White Harbor, but like we've mentioned, it is a fairly sizable castle spanning several square acres. The godswood itself is actually 3 acres, so this castle is quite large. Now, here are some of the obstacles that the Ironborn faced in taking Winterfell. There are actually 2 walls. There's an inner wall and an outer wall. Now, the outer wall is 80 feet high and has guard turrets keeping watch over all sides of it if there was anybody to man them. the outer wall was built during the near 100-year-long reign of King Edric Stark, a.k.a. Edric Snowbeard. Now, once you're past that wall, there was a wide moat that was dug sometime before that outer wall went up. On the inner side of that moat is the inner wall. It stands 100 feet high with more than 30 guard turrets, which apparently were mostly empty. Now, that inner wall dates back at least 2,000 years, likely older in some sections. Okay, now once they've reached the top of that inner wall and caught their breath, here are a few gates that the 4 men that Theon sent could have opened. There's the East Gate, which leads out toward the King's Road. So they probably did not use that gate, as it might have been more heavily watched since it leads to the major road in the area. Now, some people, I've seen some maps that had the Wintertown outside of the East Gate, but based on my research, I think it's probably the South Gate that is actually the main gate. I couldn't find anywhere that specifically said which gate was the main gate, but based on what I've been reading, I think it's the South Gate.
Weirdly, in my mind, I'd always pictured the Wintertown as being on the east side of the castle, but I don't know why.
Well, there are pictures that show it on the east side of the castle, but
maybe that's why.
But there was a description that said that the East Gate leads out toward King's Landing, and then there's another description. I mean, toward not King's Landing, toward the King's Road. Yeah. Then there was another description that said the main gate opened to the market square of the Wintertown. So,
right,
it's a little bit ambiguous which one is which. But let's say the South Gate is the main gate. It opens into the market square of the Wintertown, and Theon said that they used a postern gate, so it probably wasn't that one. You wouldn't think they would use the main gate if they were going to mention a postern gate. So now then we've got the North Gate, which sits between the greenhouse, known as the Glass Garden, and the crypts. Now, this is possibility. This is a possible gate they could have used, except that it opens fairly close to the armory and the guardhouse. So maybe that's a deterrent. Maybe there was nobody in either of those places.
Good point. Theon does know his way around, so he would know all these things. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then there's the Hunter's Gate, which would get my vote, as its primary purpose is to bypass the Wintertown and opens directly into fields in the Wolfswood, as to benefit a hunter. The only issue here is that it also sits right next to the kennels. But Summer did hear the dogs barking, so maybe that's why the dogs picked up the scent when they did. Maybe they came through that gate. Of course, but like you just said, you'd think that Theon would know that might be an issue. If we enter the Hunter's Gate, we're going to enter right into the kennels. So, but there's one last gate. It's called the Battlements Gate, and that only goes out of the inner wall and then to a bridge across the moat. However, there is no gate through the outer wall at the end of that bridge. There's just stairs leading up the outer wall to the battlements.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, okay. But it feels like you're listing the named gates, but there probably are smaller gates as well, right? I mean, I'm now envisioning this wall to be like 5 miles around.
Possibly.
There's probably little gates here and there. I mean, like, isn't a postern gate for like refuse?
The garbage. The garbage gate. They didn't list the garbage gate on the map.
Right. You know what I'm saying? This is... But yeah, interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's why he didn't name the gate. Maybe it was a smaller gate.
Right. The other thing I'm thinking is, the way you've described it with the 2 walls, you can see how many men it would take to actually guard this thing.
Yes.
I mean, just to guard the inner wall would take 50 men on duty, which means at least 100 men to rotate. And then the outer wall is probably twice as long.
Right, it's got to go around the moat as well as the inner wall.
So you definitely, I mean, they definitely would have abandoned one of those, you'd think. I mean, they would just definitely only guard the inner wall, probably. Let them swim the moat. Okay, the comparison with the television show. The scene starts with Luwin desperately getting Ravens airborne before he's captured. Then Theon visits Bran's room and lays down the law. Theon gives Bran the smart advice to yield to protect the people. When they're all gathered together, this is in the open square, not the hall. The scene is moved to the outdoors.
Okay.
It's Farlan who badmouths Theon, and his daughter Palla is not looking injured or hurt in any way.
Okay.
Farlan only badmouths the one time, gets walloped for it, and shuts up. Farlan is like me.
He is much smarter than Mikken, apparently.
Right. Osha does bend the knee, and after she's done that, she goes over to Bran, and Bran says, "I thought you liked me," something like
right.
that. And she said, "It's your dream come true, little lordling. The sea has come to Winterfell," so
right.
She's the one who makes that connection. Reek hasn't appeared yet. We don't know who Reek is in the TV show. The murder that goes on here is not of Mikken, but of Sir Roderick. Sir Roderick is in town. The whole Torrance Square thing is kind of lost in the shuffle here a little bit. Actually, that's not true. Sir Roderick is dragged back in, having been captured on the road. So they are still sticking to the book a little bit there. But Sir Roderick spits in Theon's face, and that's his death penalty. Because Dagmar, who is present, because things are a little cloudy in the TV show,
right,
says he cannot live and do that. You've got to kill him. So against the screams of everybody from Winterfell, Roderick is dragged and his head is put on a block, and Dagmar unsheathes his sword to kill Sir Roderick. Sir Roderick besmirches Theon one more time, says that you should be the one to do this. And Theon unsheathes his own sword and takes 3 chops to chop Sir Roderick's head off.
Oh.
At the end of which, Theon looks like he's lost his mind. He looks absolutely crazy.
I'm sure he possibly has lost his mind.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Good
pretty
stuff.
Intense stuff.
Yeah.
Pedantry. I didn't get anything apart from the whole "what's the long-term plan here?" It doesn't feel like this can work, but
yeah.
Good luck, Theon.
Yeah. The only things you can poke holes at are decisions made by characters, and we've decided that we don't classify that necessarily as pedantry. You could certainly poke a hole into why Roderick would leave this castle with basically if the whole of the castle was in the Great Hall and Bran was looking out over everybody, he counted like 6 men, including Hodor.
Right.
So,
well, he named 6 men.
Yes.
There probably were a few others, hopefully. Yeah. News and notes. On the Discord server, it was pointed out that Lolis Stokeworth, I said she didn't exist in the TV show. This was true to this point, but later on in the TV show, she does make an appearance. So that was not strictly true what I said there.
Yes. Well, you probably don't have the time to watch all 8 seasons to make sure you know what's coming 3 seasons from now.
In this scene. It's like just now I said Reek doesn't exist. I think Reek comes into the TV show later on. He just hasn't had any appearance yet.
Right. I get you. Well, in George Martin news, he mentioned that on December 3rd, the Sky Railway...
George Martin not writing a book news?
He did
George
mention
Martin
it.
Finding other things to do with his time news?
That's all we've got from him. That's the only news we've got from Martin. He did mention that he was writing. But he also mentioned about 6 other things that he was doing. That on December 3rd, the Sky Railway will open between Santa Fe and Lamy, New Mexico, or Lamy, Lamy. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. That is the name of Martin's short-haul railroad. It's they've restored this 19th century train, formerly the Santa Fe Southern. They bought it back in 2020. I think I mentioned this back then in news and notes. The group that bought it included Bill Benofsky, who's I believe a writer, a mystery author named Douglas Preston, and 5 other prominent Santa Feans, as he calls them. And, of course, Martin himself. They've restored and refurbished the cars, repaired tracks, and they've even installed a new engine into one of the old locomotives. I think I mentioned that a while ago when that was happening. He did say it took longer and cost more than they had originally anticipated, but as he also pointed out, what doesn't?
Good point. Yes. So, buy us a coffee. Is that the name of the place? Sorry, I always forget our money-making schemes, Mackelly. So buy us a coffee. We have a buy us a coffee site, and Steve OS made a donation. Mackelly and I are sharing a cup of Arbor Gold right now, courtesy of Steve OS.
Thank you very much.
Or at least our podcast will be hosted partially as a result of Steve OS's generous donation. So
exactly.
We appreciate
very
that
generous.
Much.
Thank you very much, Steve OS. We know Steve from the Discord server. We talk and interact with him a lot. Seems like a really good guy, and so thank you very much. We really
appreciate that.
Very much appreciate that.
You have a review.
We do. Do you want to read it?
You can have it.
Okay. You don't want to have to figure out how to pronounce that name. I'm
going to go for Owen J. Bennett.
Owen. Oh, Owen. Yeah, I can see that. Owen J. Bennett. Yeah. We're pronouncing it like it looks there. This is from Apple Podcasts. The subject is Love This Podcast. So
it's a command. It's an order.
That's how we'll read it. Love this podcast. I am addicted to reading this series, and I am currently reading The Feast of Crows. Sadly, I have no friends that can read. No. I just have no one to talk to about it that has read it. My wife just looks at me in puzzlement as I try and explain it to her. Thank you for your podcast to fill in the gaps, answer my burning questions, and, of course, all your japes. Mm-hmm. Thanks again, and keep up the great work.
Well, I am glad we're filling the void left by your wife not taking part in your interesting hobbies, Owen J. Bennett. Thank you very much. That's very nice.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, let's conclude. So Roderick definitely has cleaned out Winterfell of all fighting men. It does seem like a pretty bad tactical and strategic error.
Yeah, like you said, though, he could win at Torrhen Square. Like Dagmar said, this castle's not going to fall. And Theon said, I don't want it to fall. It's not the castle I'm after. So, they might go down there, chase all these Ironborn away, and then come home and possibly retake Winterfell. I mean, that's an option. That certainly could happen. I do concern that the Ironborn have the leverage on the inside with the captives, but
again, for those captives, which can become trump cards if you're willing to kill them, are also your enemies, and they're willing to kill you.
Yes, there's 3 captives in particular that would worry me. Obviously, Bran. There's another Stark kid. We should make a mug out of this kid.
Bran and the 2 direwolves are the 3 you're worried about. Wait a minute, whose is that direwolf?
Bran, Rickon, and Beth Cassell. Roderick's daughter is also in this castle.
Good point.
So that might cause him to hesitate.
Of course, an invading army wouldn't necessarily know who she was, but Theon does.
Theon most certainly would know who she is. So, just make it a little more tenuous whether or not you want to, scale those walls and chance them being harmed. Because at this point, there's no going back for Theon. He can't be like, oh, okay, hands up, I'm sorry. Like, he's going to die a horrible death if he, is captured at this point.
Right. And I mean, and if he isn't, he's going to be hounded for the rest of his short, miserable life.
Right. So either he goes out in a blaze of glory and just kills everyone in that castle and then himself, or he prevails on Roderick to a stalemate.
Worrying. So when news of this reaches Kat, she will be under the belief that 4 of her 5 children are captives.
Yeah.
Technically it's 3, because
Right.
Sansa is not... Arya is in the wind to a certain extent.
She doesn't know that, though, so...
Yeah. Although, she's kind of a captive too, right?
She is. I mean, she's stuck in Harrenhal. She probably... Yeah. It's an even lot bigger castle than Winterfell. I'm sure if she wanted to, she could leave. But she's thought about it multiple times and hasn't yet, so...
But she does have the one advantage over the 3 that are truly captive of...
Right.
None of her captors know who she is.
Yes, that is very true. So I was wondering, might Theon have moved too quickly? Could any Northmen get to Moat Cailin before the Ironborn get there? We don't know the timeline. We don't know where his Uncle Victarion is in his attempt. We don't know. I mean, he could already be in the process of taking Moat Cailin. No birds have escaped to Winterfell anyway, to mention it.
It's interesting, actually, what would happen at White Harbour when the Raven arrives, because do you immediately saddle up and ride for Winterfell to try and free everybody? Or do you think, the one thing we've got to do is make sure that Moat Cailin doesn't fall. We need to keep that channel open so that the Northern Army can get back here.
Excellent point. I wonder if Lord Wyman is as calculating as you are to think that. See, Roderick could have used a man like you and his small council,
who's already read the book, who reads the Theon chapters where Theon discusses his plans.
Doesn't hurt. Certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So Theon is trying to rule in a Ned-like manner while beating Hodor,
and allowing young women like Palla to be raped. The two, it's very hard to balance those two things out. So see if he can do it. It's impossible,
I would say.
But I was thinking that if I'm Theon, if I'm the Ironborn, my next step might be to somehow at least... Now, White Harbor is a city. You're not going to take that with 30 people. That's one of the 5 largest cities in Westeros. But somehow prevent them from doing anything useful, because they're a major port on the east side of the north. Yeah. So if Robb can't get past Moat Cailin, maybe he can take enough men by ship to White Harbor and possibly retake Moat Cailin from the vulnerable northern side.
Enough men is not that many. That's the one thing we keep observing. It won't take that many Northerners to take all this back.
Right. So you got to factor in White Harbor. Got to consider something to prevent that option from happening. Maybe you'd make you can't imagine that he could make a pitch to Lord Wyman Manderley and be like, hey, how about we partner here? Because, like I've been saying, that's not how the North rolls.
Right. I think your best bet is to try and burn the fleet, try and set it on fire before it can do anything, as much as the fleet is hanging around in White Harbor waiting to get burned.
Right, yeah. I mean, that was Wyman's whole thing, was he wanted to build a fleet. That wasn't that long ago, so maybe he's got like one ship built.
Good point, yeah. So we're back to 4 Kings?
Yeah. We lost Renly, dropped it to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4. And now...
Oh, yeah, I'm getting it. We're at 4 now, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's called the Battle of the 5 Kings, because we've had 5 kings so far. We lost Renly, so now we're down to 4 kings.
Yeah, okay. We're not getting back up to 5, because if we got back up to 5, he would be the 6th king.
Right, then it'd be the Battle of the 6 Kings. So I think we have our 5 contestants. We've got, obviously, Joffrey, Stannis, Renly, Robb, and now in this chapter, Theon mentions that his father, Balon, has donned the crown as well.
Yeah. So, Theon better hope that Robb doesn't, as he puts it, stave off the Lannisters. In actual fact, that probably, if you think about it, that is Theon's only hope, is that Robb is utterly destroyed by the Lannisters, who, out of gratitude to Theon for what he did to distract the North,
right? Yeah,
let him keep it.
You're right. It's absolutely the best option for Theon's long-term success and life.
Yeah.
Is
But again, he's still going to be the lord of people who hate his guts.
Oh yeah, yes.
He feared that when he went back to the Iron Islands, but they were just sort of like begrudging of him. The North hate him.
Right. Yes, exactly. But the last part of Jojen's dream, his sea dream, was that Bran and Rickon were having their skin flayed by Reek.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Maybe I'd forgotten that it was Reek that did that.
Yeah. So, if Bran is accepted that all these dreams come true, that would make me rather nervous. Now, of course,
well,
not everything is literal.
These dreams are coming true. The dreams are coming true, clearly.
Right. No, but not all of his dreams manifest themselves in a literal way. So
right. But I would be taking, like, I would ask Theon if Reek could be the person who undresses me at night. Because that might be what it meant by peeling off my skin.
It was really just my shirt.
He could also shave me. No, not that.
No.
And it's actually interesting that Reek worked for Ramsay Snow / Bolton, because their sigil, of course, is the Flayed Man. So I wonder if he learned his flaying skills while
at the Dreadfort, right?
At the Dreadfort, yes.
Huh?
Anyway, as always, you can reach us at ghosts.harrenhal@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at @ghostsharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, you name it.
Threadless. Buy us a cup of coffee.
Yeah. We have to not say buy us a cup of coffee, because it's buy me a coffee, right? That's where
Yes, it's buy me a coffee. Yes, buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhal. And of course, our merchandise site is ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. And if you would please consider going out, if we haven't taxed you enough with tasks, if you please wouldn't also go out and leave us a 5-star rate and a glowing review. We most certainly would appreciate that. And if you do that, we very well might read it in a future episode.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.